Welcome to Reiki Radio. I'm your host, Yolanda-Williams, and each week we cover topics to help you deepen your connection with mind, body, and soul, and transform energies to help you choose how to live a more heart-centered life. And don't forget, if you miss any episodes, you can access all shows at any time through the podcast on iTunes, listed under Reiki Radio. The show is interactive, so be sure to call 323-679-0953 and press the number 1 to share. I look forward to exchanging with you. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to Reiki Radio. My name is Yolanda-Williams, and I am your host. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I am very happy that you are here. And for those of you who tune in more regularly, of course, I welcome you, and I'm always very thankful that you come back and join me on the show. So today we are going to talk about the power of community, which I believe in wholeheartedly. But before we get into today's topic, there are a few things that I wanted to remind you of. Now, you know that we do talk about the new moon and full moon on Reiki Radio for various reasons. Sometimes we're talking about the energies of the new and full moon, but we also talk about these being really good times for us to focus on what we are creating. In the new moon, we plant our seeds of intention, and then during the full moon, we are focusing on birthing or releasing this into the universe for co-creation. So I just want to let you know that we do have a full moon coming up on the 4th, which I believe is on Saturday. So if you haven't already, of course, you can go to my website, yuchi.com. That's YEWCHI.com. And when you sign up for my newsletter, you get access to a free moon manifesting workbook that helps you learn how to connect with these energies, but also how to manifest more consciously. And so that was one of the things I wanted to point out. I also wanted to say happy April 1st. We're in the first day of April. Luckily, at this point, I haven't had any April Fool's jokes pulled on me, although the day isn't over, and I have been warned, but we'll see how that goes. But I was thinking about today being the 1st of April and that we are done with the first quarter of this year. And, that went by so quickly. Before you know it, we'll be halfway through this year. And I point that out because this is a really good time for us to check in with what it is, again, that we are creating. Maybe look back at what you may have said you wanted to create or put more focus or more energy towards at the beginning of this year, and look at if there have been any shifts or changes in your life to really support this. Now, I also want to point out, in talking about shifts and changes, when we are in a space of feeling uncomfortable, or we're, in a space of confusion, or just whatever may be going on in life, if you're feeling uncomfortable about where you are, you can really step back and look at what's happening and consider that the discomfort is part of the change that is occurring for you. And part of this change may be leading you to exactly where you said you wanted to be. A lot of times these shifts and changes will occur even without us thinking we've prompted it, but once we put out there what we want, shifts and changes will start to manifest in our life to create new avenues for what it is that we said we wanted to experience or attract. So just keep in mind that if you are feeling a little off lately, you are growing, you're changing in some way, and the change that is occurring, of course, leads us to new opportunity and new experience. So just keep that in mind. There was something else I wanted to share with you. I did receive some emails asking me about my new offerings. I started intuitive mentoring, and I have limited space for that because in the intuitive mentoring, I'm working with people one-on-one. So it's not a class or group setting. It's just one-on-one, and we work together for 8 weeks, and it's 2 hours each week. So if you are interested in the intuitive mentoring, I do suggest that you also, again, sign up for my newsletter because there will be a special offer for people who are part of my mailing list, and that will go out probably tomorrow. But again, you can get more information about that at yuchi.com. Again, that's YEWCHI.com. Okay, so I really wanted to talk to you today about the power of community. And like I said, this is very important to me, and, it's part of why I do the radio show. I also have a separate newsletter called Lightworker Lane, which is just for the community of lightworkers, because I do think, community is so important. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today, and probably throughout this month, is going to be focused around our consciousness and really looking at you focusing in on what you're holding within your vibration. I think it is very important for each of us to start to recognize what we are holding within our field of consciousness and what type of energy we are existing within. This has been an ongoing theme in my current meditations. For those of you who have worked with me, you know that I often go into meditation to receive information about how to move ahead on my own journey, but also about what I share with the community that is that resonates with me, the people that find me or connect with me. You're here for a reason, and we end up in each other's lives for exchange for a reason. So the focus more recently in my meditations and in my personal practice has been very focused on what it is we are existing within and what we're holding within our field. So you will notice me talking a lot about this on upcoming shows. And if you are wondering what I'm talking about right now, you may want to go back to last week's episode and listen to that. It'll give you more insight. But anyway, so today we're talking about we're talking about community. And really, it's about the collective mind and the consciousness that exists within our realm, like this plane where we all are living. And as a community, we expand agreements within the collective consciousness. So, we did talk about that a little bit last week, but as a community, what we're holding within our field of consciousness and what we believe in and what we again, agree to live in accordance with, that has an effect on the whole. So we gain access to knowledge and wisdom and understanding, all of these things, as we widen the portals of knowing in collaboration. And that's why we share. As we learn, we share information with other people, because it does create an expansiveness within our collective field of consciousness that we're all existing within. And at this time, as many people know, a huge shift is occurring for us, and it seems that more and more people are starting to become more aware or more concerned with who they are and how they're living their life and what we are doing as a collective. So again, this all is about community, really, because we are all of, one community at the end of the day. But for today's conversation, I want to begin with family, because this is our first exposure or our first introduction to being a part of community, right? So when you consider what you received within your family or that particular community, you can think about, what you were taught, or, in that community, maybe you received love and support and shelter or encouragement, or maybe you feel you didn't. But whatever it is you experienced, there was a level of understanding or an agreement within your family, how they function, what they believed in, what they passed down. And the root for all of us is based in ancestral experience and understanding. You know, the information is passed on generation after generation. But throughout the generations, our family agreements become altered, and they start to shift and change by our experiences and our understanding. This is the same with community, right? It's all about evolution of consciousness. And when we think about it this way, I want you to even consider community, which is based on generation. So as a collective, each generation comes in with new agreements and points of focus to aid in the evolution of the collective consciousness. And each generation has a sweeping impact on their communities. You know, when you talk to your parents or your grandparents and they talk about, their generation and what was going on in their generation, or if you even think about yours, you know, what was the theme or what was going on with your generation? What were they focused on? What really mattered? It's really interesting when we think about it in these different levels. But our understanding of community is, you know, it's just bound by some commonality, some common thread. So generally, you know, it could be something like we enjoy the same art, or we have the same sense of adventure, or we enjoy the same field of study. You know, and that may be why you're here, Reiki Radio. And, you know, they also have things like that website meetup.com, where people are creating these little sub-communities to invite people in that share similar interest. It's because we all seek to be a part of. We want to connect with other people that seem to share similar interest or a similar vibration to us. Now, when we think about the community we were born into, like our family or our culture, it does have an influence on what's been embedded within our field of consciousness. But there is a part of you that begins to seek alignment with your own knowing or your own calling or your own understanding. And that's when you go out into the world and you start seeking new communities of individuals who understand you, or who validate you, or truly see who you are, or your expression of the divine. Now, within each segment of community, there is an expansion of consciousness, because we begin to agree to some level of understanding in greater numbers. So let's just take, Reiki, for example. It started with just a few people, right? It started with Yusui Sensei in Japan. He then attuned 22 Reiki masters. The Reiki then started to spread, and then it went to Miss Takata, and she brought it to the West. And now look at where it is now. This level of understanding, this technique, this agreement to connect with higher vibrations of life force energy, the community began to spread. And it continues to spread in greater numbers. And when we think about this, of all the things that we agree to, of all the communities or grouping of ideas that we agree to, you can see how community is so powerful. It creates more magnitude of any given frequency or set of agreements. This makes me think about when you meditate with a group of people. If any of you have had this experience, when you meditate by yourself, if it is a daily practice, you will recognize that it is very powerful. It can be very powerful, and sometimes you may have more of an interesting experience than other times. But when you meditate in a group, the vibration is often more tangible. It's like you can really feel the energy of the room and the energy flowing through you. It's because of that group, that community, the collective. It's powerful. Now, one of the things I just want to point out for you, since I'm mentioning that, because a lot of people do have these experiences of heightened awareness or heightened, feeling in doing, energy work or meditation, or even with your intuition. If you are working on strengthening your intuitive ability, there will be times where the energy seems very powerful and it's very exciting, or you have a very this cool experience, and then you're wondering why maybe it doesn't seem as strong at other times. Well, that's often because you've adjusted to the frequency of what it is that you've initiated or that you've agreed to. The energy will become less apparent because you've attuned to or matched the particular vibration. So just keep that in mind. It's not always, it doesn't mean you're broken or you're doing something incorrectly if you go into, meditation or doing Reiki or something, and it's not always this really profound experience. Sometimes you're just matching the vibration that you have become accustomed to. And then you'll have another experience that seems really amazing, and then you will attune or adjust to that frequency. So when you seek understanding or to advance your level of awareness, this can be supported and heightened within the realm of community, one that matches the energy that you seek to align with. Now, the key that I want you to keep in mind is it's really about learning in community. We learn in this space and we can support each other. But realize that the work you do on you and within your own field of consciousness, even coming down to what you agree to, that creates shifts within the whole vibration. Within a crowd of many, there may be shared interests or shared points of view. But our community is often, peppered with various beliefs. So always be mindful of what you hold in your field of consciousness. If you are wondering how to connect with yourself, I do talk about the power of meditation a lot, and I've shared with you on other shows it is very foundational in any kind of spiritual practice. And it gives you an opportunity to commune with yourself, and it helps you to connect with you so that you can come to understand your own heart and your own mind and connect with understanding what you hold within your vibration. All roads, including that of community, they all lead back to you. What you hold within your field of consciousness has an impact on the community at large. You are part of the whole. Whether you are looking at these smaller communities that you're a part of, even within that, you're part of the one giant whole collective. So as you transform, your immediate community will transform, and as that community grows in a shared vibration, the energy expands and reaches out and creates a larger community, and so on, just like in the example I gave of Reiki. And even within the realm of Reiki, you look at how with the expansion of the community, There have been so many shifts and changes. People are working with Reiki in very different ways. There are different types of Reiki now within the one community of Reiki. Now, like I said, we have various communities. We have our family, we have our friends, and you have those that you have chosen. Now, again, I want you to just take a moment and consider that you are part of the global community. Think about what you're adding into the collective consciousness. What are you agreeing to align with? Is it your heart? Is it what matters to you? Is it what you believe in? Now, this radio show itself is a community, right? And regardless if you know who's listening, you are part of this frequency of shared consciousness. And just by showing up and considering these ideas, you're shifting your awareness. And we're doing it as a collective. We're doing it as a community. We come together to commune with ourselves and to connect with what matters to us, to connect with what resonates with us. You're here for a reason, and I am very thankful for your presence. I'm thankful for each person who sends me an email to share with me their experiences or their thoughts or whatever came up for them while listening to the show. It's about exchange. Now, I was thinking about that too, commune, to commune. And according to the dictionary, to commune is to share one's intimate thoughts or feelings with someone or something, especially when the exchange is on a spiritual level. And that's what this is about. As a community, we commune with each other, which is ultimately to commune with our own heart resonance, and in turn, it's to commune with the divine essence of who we are. We are community. We are one. We're of the same tribe. Now, within these groups that we connect with, we recognize our connections to each other. That's what they help us do. That's why I like these communities that we create. Within them, we recognize our common thread, which is humanity, right? But you see that you're not alone in your thoughts or your beliefs. You're not the only one asking, particular questions. You realize that there are other people who share your feelings. Now, when we widen the scope, we do recognize ourselves as part of the global community, as part of the whole, as part of the universal community, as one. And again, our common thread is our divine nature. So the sub-communities that we create are ways to recognize our connectedness on a much smaller scale. And it really is a beautiful thing. Now, within the communities we create, we tend to feel heard or understood or recognized. It's amazing because you'll hear your story through someone else's story, or you'll see yourself in someone else's experience. You'll feel or see or recognize you in the thoughts that they share, in their points of view. And we tend to feel stronger within this recognition. But what it really comes down to is acknowledging that we are one. We are connected. And again, as I mentioned on other shows, it always brings me back to, being in yoga class and looking at each other and saying namaste, which is the divine in me acknowledges the divine in you. Or that movie, what was it, Avatar, where they would look at each other and say, I see you. It's recognition of you and me and you. How good do you feel when you know you are seen, like really seen or understood? Or how good does it feel to be among other people who share your interests, that you can, have discussions with about what really matters to you? To be in a space of exchange and creativity. There's nothing like it, and we merge and create significant impact. We merge and support each other, helping each other to see who and what we really are and what matters to us. So with that, of course, I thank you for being a part of my little community here on Reiki Radio. I am truly in gratitude for our exchanges, and I encourage you to, continue with seeking alignment with yourself. And I have to say, in exchange, I have been encouraged to continue working on my vibration just from people who are part of this community. I know and understand that we each affect the whole. We are connected. We are one. So at the end of the day, with all of this, I recommend looking at what you are holding in your space, what it is that you agree to, what you are aligning with, if it is true to your heart, if it matters to you, and even the communities that you are a part of. What are you getting in those exchanges? What are you offering in those exchanges? We grow in exchange. I say this all the time, and it's so true. Each one of us, you matter. You matter. So I hope that this gives you something to think about today. And as always, I thank you for joining me on today's show. And again, I look forward to working with some of you. If you do want more information about the intuitive mentoring, again, you can go to yuchi.com. That's YEWCHI.com. And regardless if you're doing the mentoring or not, be sure to sign up for the newsletter just to get access to the free Moon Manifesting Workbook. This full moon on April 4th is supposed to be pretty powerful, so it'll be really interesting. I'll share more information about that in the upcoming newsletter. If you have any questions or feedback, just want to reach out and say hello, feel free to do that. You can reach me through the website as well. And be sure to join me on Reiki Radio next week. Next week, we're going to talk about the vibration of music, because this is really interesting what we are listening to nowadays, but really considering what it is doing to our vibration and what it is putting within our field of consciousness. So I hope that you all have a beautiful Wednesday. I hope that you aren't pranked too hard on this April Fool's Day, and I will talk to you soon. Remember to always journey in love. Thank you for joining me today on Reiki Radio. If you have any questions, feedback, or show ideas, be sure to send me an email. You can contact me through my website, yuchi.com. That's YEWCHI.com. And be sure to join me next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, continue to journey inward, revealing who you are and choosing to live life in alignment with your heart. Have a beautiful week ahead, and remember to always journey in love.